Welcome to Flat Earth Debate. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and a link in the info box below this video once it has rendered. Most importantly though, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules in the Hangout. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the chances of a more diverse panel by, of course, increasing the live audience. One last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. With that, I'll transition to my photos, as I actually don't have any guests this morning, so hopefully we'll be joined shortly by a guest, and when we do, I'll make an introduction then. I think we've been joined by Anthony. How are you doing, Anthony? Can you hear us?
I can. Just give me 1 minute, and I'll give you a buzz back. I'm just getting myself upstairs.
Okay, no worries.
1 sec. Bye bye.
So I'll do a few shout outs to the chat while we're waiting for Anthony to join us. Shout out to Slightly Looming Non-Standard Refraction Hyena. Good to see you. Ute. Good to have you. Yes, 150 debates. Indeedy do. Hello, Bullshit. Good to have you here. Life is good with LG. Nice to see you. Stop in traffic in my Rasta hat. Thanks for joining us. Physics Warrior. Nice to see you as well. Don't think I've missed anybody. Good to have you all here. NASA says, nice to see you. Been a while since I've done such an early show. Don't normally get to do shout outs. Hello. Can you hear us? No sound from you. I don't know if you're on mute.
Oh.
There you go.
No, I'm not.
Now we hear you.
Aha. Have
you
you
want to...
wet the bed? You're on early?
Yeah. It's children for you.
Did you have any snow overnight?
Yes, lots of snow.
Yes, we did too. We had like maybe 1.5 inches, but we'll do what ballers do with refraction and call it 7 inches.
Negligible then.
Yeah, a negligible amount of snow. So how come you're on so early?
Just got up early.
I'm just what I'm trying to do is get a clip that reminded me of you, and it reminds me of you, but it also reminds me of the ballers, and it's I can't remember what the guy's name is, but it's a BBC journalist, and he's trying to ask two politicians one question, and basically it's the question that he's asking is, do you think that Jeremy Corbyn has betrayed the country? And the politicians simply won't answer. So he's asking him a really straightforward question, and it reminded me of you when you're asking them, do we see this lighthouse or is it not there? And obviously we see the lighthouse. So he's asking, like, do you think Corbyn has betrayed the country? But the politician that he's asking refuses to answer the question, so obfuscates the question, the answer. And basically, the presenter keeps realizing that this is obfuscation, and he keeps reining back in, saying, "No, that's not the question I asked. I asked this question: do you think Corbyn has betrayed the country?" And he simply will not answer it. And it reminded me of you asking him about the lighthouse, and it reminds me of people like Paul Voigt when he struggles with the word "reduced," or any of the ballers when they get cornered, and it was just glorious. But I'm gonna have to get the reference for it so I can present it because it's glorious. But I don't want to do it because it's come up on my Facebook feed, so I need to get the video out of Facebook. Not quite sure how I'll get it out of Facebook, but I'm working on it. Do you know how I'll get it out of Facebook?
No idea. I don't use Facebook. All I use it for is to publish these videos. So once the video gets rendered, I stick a link in Facebook and never look again.
Yeah. I'm just trying to work out how it works. I may need some time on this, but in the meantime, how much notice did you give for the show? In fact, I've not even had a notify of this show.
It happens occasionally. Just the notifications don't go out. I did start it about 8:30 and set it for 10 because if you set the show up for less than an hour's notice, it doesn't put out a notification. So I did actually set it up for 10, intending to start at 9. But it, like you say, I didn't know that, but it didn't notify you, so I assume nobody got any notifications.
Sure. Ramsey is alive. He is live.
That's good to know.
Now. He messaged me and asked, "Do you know when you're going live?" And I was like, "Actually, he's already live. I've not seen Ranty for like 3 days. I think his girlfriend might have killed him and buried him under the patio or something." But
sure, I've spoken to him in the last couple of days.
So basically, the snow we've had overnight is meant to be this massive minus 15 degrees chill that they were ranting and raving about in the news last week. And it's not actually that bad. Bear with me, I shall be back.
More fear porn. We're all going to die. It's going to get really cold. Nah, not really. A little bit of snow. In all the northern European countries I've been to, snow is just a common thing. You know, people have got 2 sets of tyres for their cars, and hardly anybody drives 4-wheel drive cars. They just put snow tyres on, and everyone copes absolutely fine with inches and inches of snow daily. Here, I've seen it before when I was a rep in England. You get a couple of inches of snow, the whole country grinds to a halt. It's just ridiculous. Good morning to Flat Earth, Alaska. Good to see you. Doom and gloom, end of the world, overkill, NASA says. Yeah, fear porn, non-stop fear porn. I gave up on TV quite some time ago for exactly that reason. Just depressing. Physics Warrior says, the magician is the casual effect for slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena, formerly known as the curvature. Depends if anybody obfuscates my questions, Huey. Huey says, are you going to lose your shit again, Nathan? No. If you ask somebody to specifically point out whether or not items that are in the distance are further around the curvature than items that are near to you, and they say no, And then you ask them again, so are you saying that the items further around in this picture are not further around the curvature? And they say, no, they're not. And then you say, well, I'd love to hear the explanation for this. And then they completely contradict themselves and say, oh, well, actually, yes, they are further and further around the curvature. Then, yeah, I do tend to get a bit angry with people who do things like that, namely the rumpus, who is either an idiot, because he can't understand simple English, or deliberately lying. Yeah, those kind of people annoy me greatly. Sly less so. You know, the ignorant annoy me less because, you know, you can't help being ignorant. Everyone's ignorant. Sly was ignorant of his own model. He didn't understand how it works. Said he needed to go away and have a little look at how the maths works. And wouldn't concede in spite of me telling him. And then Rumpus confirming what I'd said. After denying it 3 times, of course. Yeah, that doesn't annoy me so much. It's like I'm happy to point out to Sly that he doesn't understand his own model. If you don't get that the whole thing's a hologram, I'm happy to point that out to you. Once you get it, I don't mind what you call it either. So if you don't like the word hologram, then that's absolutely fine. I don't mind calling it looming, so long as you accept that looming means the entire bloody island isn't where you think it is. As long as you accept and understand that, you can call it what the hell you like. I'll call it fantasy.
I do think Sly understands the model. I think that he deliberately, not obfuscates, but I mean, yesterday he came on because one of the things that he picked me up on was that I misquoted him. And I didn't misquote him. I asked him a closed question. It required a closed answer, and he gave me a closed answer, which I quoted him on verbatim. I didn't do what Sean Huffer does, which is basically try and regurgitate it in a way that isn't the same way that it was said, but sounds similar to what was said, but he's changed the meaning of it. I quoted him exactly, the word for word, what he said. And then that forces him into saying, well, you took it out of context. And I didn't. I asked him, what was the science for the explanation? What was the science for the floaty land that we see in the north of Isle of Man? And he gave me an answer. But the answer is supposed to be the curvature of the Earth, if you believe that curvature is obstructing what we see. The answer is not. The reflection, the inverted mirage reflection that he was referring to that appears to the observer as an obstruction. And that was exactly what he said. And I really wanted to get closure on that point yesterday. Someone battered him and he left, but I didn't misquote you, Sly. I took your words exactly the way you said them. If you didn't mean what you said, then that's not my problem, that's your problem. But I took them exactly the way you said it, and it was in context. So if you're listening, Sly, join us. I'd like to get closure on that point. Trying to find this video. It's not very long, but it's funny.
Have you found it?
I need to know what this guy's name is. Should be right at the very beginning.
Yeah, I don't mind screaming at the top of my voice when somebody is disingenuous, lying, or stupid, Huey. Morning, Rune Thornton. Good to see you. Good morning, Ranty. Nice to have you here. Lisa's got an A in it, Huey. I know it's an E you've missed. E-L-E.
I'm just trying to find out where the video originated from so I don't have to play it through Facebook. Rancy's been under... Oh, there he is. Steve Baker, MP. Right, that's what I need to know. Steve Baker, MP, BBC. Steve Baker, MP, BBC. That would be an interview, wouldn't it?
Hi, Greg T. Good to see you. Hi, Paper Explanator. Nice to have you here.
How far away are the stars, Paper? You have to assume that the sun is 93 million miles away. No, you don't.
Of course, we have to assume that the sun is 93 million miles away. We have to.
Oh, right, so this
A
may
long
not
way,
work
he says. A long way, assuming that we assume The sun is 93 million miles away, Paper Explanator, as you very concisely pointed out.
Yeah.
Hi, Typo Brahe. Great name. Hi, Rock Lover. Andres, good to see you. Nice, these calm early start shows.
Yeah. Lewis surprised me yesterday. We haven't seen Lewis for like, what, at least 4 weeks? And he turned up yesterday with a tirade of abuse because I was talking about refraction at 7.6R, and he thought that I wasn't... I had absolutely no reason to represent it as a percentage whatsoever. And I was like, actually, yes, because if we show it as a percentage, we show the difference between like negligible, which is like, in my view, less than 1%. I'll give you 5. But actually, that standard refraction calculator shows like 16%. That's not negligible, is it? And I'm literally halfway through it. Lewis jumps on, interrupts, obfuscates, leaves with a hurl of abuse. And then I was listening back to it yesterday, and it was the minute he swore. And I just thought, right, Nathan, I'll kick him for that. And I just said, bye, Lewis. And then Nathan said, bye. It was brilliant.
I don't mind the abuse. You can come on and be abusive and say we're idiots and we've got it wrong. That I don't mind. You know, it's just the swearing thing is purely there for people who are completely triggered. So when people are like, why are you swearing? It's like, well, I've got to run the show, so triggered or not, you know, I've got to be here. So yes, when I get triggered, I swear as well. That's the point in having that particular rule. And it means that it's as much for the person who's triggered as it is for my show, in the respect that if I was to allow someone like Lewis Hackett to continue completely wound up, swearing and triggered, he would end up making a complete arse of himself. And I don't really want that. I don't want people to think that this show's here for people to make idiots of themselves when they're triggered. You know, I'd rather just kick them out and let them come back on the next show, hopefully a bit calmer, and put a good point together. You know, that's much, much better than sort of swearing and getting angry as Lewis did. And when people are new, I'll normally give them, you know, several opportunities to stop swearing, normally because they're not actually triggered. You know, they just don't know how the show works in that regard. But as long as I can pull them up on it while they're relatively calm, they'll understand why I kick them and won't go, you know, it's better than me saying, I'm going to have to kick you because you're triggered, or stop getting triggered, or stop getting angry, because that normally certainly makes me even more angry. You know, that's why they say, oh, look how triggered he is. That's the whole point in doing it. It's just a wind-up. But, you know, I'm not into that game. I'm more interested in people actually putting concise points together. Not that Lewis had a decent point yesterday. He didn't have a decent point. But had he have had a decent point, I'd rather he just express that.
Well, that was my point. I don't think he actually had a point. I think he just wanted to obfuscate my point, which was that 7.6R is not negligible by any calculation, mathematically or otherwise. It's 16% there or thereabouts. Call it 15, we'll round it down. Still 15%. I mean, if you got a 15% pay rise, you'd be happy with that. But if you got a negligible pay rise, what figure do you think you're going to get if it's a negligible pay rise? Because it ain't going to be 15. The big problem I have... Oh! Al K. Did you watch his video yesterday?
Yeah, I did.
Al K, to be honest, he's done really well. I want to give a big shout out to Al K because me and Ramsey met him.
Props Al K, kudos, excellent photography, and I think that's the comment I put. I think I put excellent picture or words to that effect.
Yeah, I want to give him a bit of kudos because me and Ramsey saw either Miles or Al on the top of that little mound. And basically we went straight over because I wanted to confront him. I wanted to see how he would react, you know, confront him, because he is a bit of a keyboard warrior in text. I've seen a lot of his messages and they're not nice. I mean, they're as equally as vile as other people's are. No worse, no better. He's just a typical baller that gets triggered a lot. And I wanted to confront him and see how he got on, and I did, and it was brilliant because Randy was the witness. He saw how good and how not good it went, but nonetheless, we had dinner. We bought bacon butties and chocolate and coffees, and sat down and we spent maybe 40 minutes with the guy. And for all intensive purposes, it were a nice meet. It was like unexpectedly pleasant. And I think he realised that I am actually a human, not some kind of like animal kind of thing. But in any event, he said to us that he was planning on doing some nighttime photography. So I was like, great, what are you doing? And he wants to do the lighthouse from different elevations. And I was like, right. I looked at the camera and I know he's got a P900 and I know he's also got another camera. Now, I know that the P900, if anybody has a P900, if you're not aware, just Google search low light performance P900. And you will see that the low light performance of the P900 is really poor, primarily because it's got a really small sensor, but also because the other hardware that's in the camera is not particularly good for low light observations. So I knew that he was going to struggle. So what he'd done is he'd gone up to St. Bees Head and he had essentially climbed the hardest part of the mountain or the cliff or whatever. And the day that he did this, it was bitter. It was absolutely freezing. The wind was so cold.
He was climbing it with all his kit.
Yeah, it was so cold. I mean, me and Ranty had been out in and out of the car all day, so we were relatively warm. We were able to warm up as we were getting cold, warm up as we were getting cold. He was stopping in his hotel, so he was able to get prolonged periods of getting warm again, but then he'd be out in for prolonged periods as well, whereas we were in and out the car, so we had the warmth from the car, so it was nice and warm. But he didn't have that. He was out long periods of time, and it really was bitter. And what he did was he got Mackle Lighthouse, and he got the Point of Ayr Lighthouse, which is the northernmost lighthouse on the island, and he got them both from the St. Bees Head. Now, I didn't know he was doing this, but in the past we spoke about it, and I'd said you can get Mackle Lighthouse from the steps where Miles Davis was sat, and he was like, "I've tried doing that twice and I've not got it," and I was like, "It's because you've got a P900." And he's like, nah. He was quite dismissive, but it is true. That is factually the case. It is because the P900 is naff at night time. But what he's done to get the Mackle Lighthouse this time is he's gone up Point of Ayr Lighthouse. He's gone up the St. Bees Head, an elevation of around about 300 feet. But he's done it at dusk. Now, obviously, at dusk, there's more light, right? If you were to do that same observation and it wasn't dusk at the same point, you would struggle getting it because the camera can't focus. It doesn't know what it's looking at when it sees a screen of black, which is what the P900 sees it as, a screen of black. It's not able to distinguish very well between the little tiny light that is the lighthouse that's 30 odd miles away to the rest of the picture. It just can't do it. It's not capable of doing it because it's not got a big enough sensor to be able to resolve the information that you can see with your eye, but the camera can't see it. It can't focus on it. Even with manual focus, it's really difficult to find it because you can't even see the horizon at night time. So you have to do it at dusk. Now, when he's gone up there, he's done it at dusk. And, to be fair to Al, he's got the lighthouse, which is brill. But then he's come back to where Miles the Liar Davis was stood at the lowest elevation, which is, 25 feet off the water. And I see you getting muted, Nath. He couldn't get it. And he thinks it's because of the curvature of the Earth. But I said, well, if I can get it with a different camera, would you accept that we can see it? And he was like, well, yeah. I was like, well, if we can get it with another camera, perhaps it's down to the camera and perhaps it's actually there and we see it. And he was like, well, refraction, low tides, all this nonsense. But again, I'd told Nathan prior to Nathan coming up with us that we could see this with the naked eye without much work, provided it was clear enough, it wasn't a misty night or it wasn't overcast. I said to Nathan that you would see that without trying and it would be there, naked eye. And sure enough, we went outside, there it was. Tried to get it on the P900, wasn't having it. Went back inside, got the missus's camera, and she came out, pointed it, and basically got it straight away, probably the first time. And I think, I don't know, it depends. It's probably worth showing like some of the stills out of Al's video so that people can see what Al got in relation to what we got. Because I think you'll see the difference in the comparison. You'll realise that there is a difference between the two observations, and the difference is how much ambient light there actually is, which is the reason why he got it on the P900. But when it went pitch black, by the time he got back off the hill, he wasn't able to get it. Now, I'm just trying to think. Should I do that? I'll have to wait for Nath to come back.
No, I am here. I've just been muted in the Hangout.
All right, okay.
By Porn Bomber or someone. Not that there's anyone in the Hangout, so it makes literally no difference, but fine.
Well, so if you get muted in the Hangout, can I still hear you on Skype?
Yeah, so can the audience. Okay. So the only people that lose me is the Hangout themselves when people join to mute me. So, I mean, what I've taken to doing now is when that happens, I mute the Hangout. It's like, okay, if someone's going to join so that I can't be heard in the Hangout and I'm the host, I'll just mute the entire Hangout and carry on talking.
What's your view on playing a couple of stills out of Alkay's video?
It's up to you what you do. If you want to play Alkay's stills, that's up to you. Do you want to play them?
Okay.
Do you want me to present you?
Sure. Just give me one sec while I find it.
No worries. Just let me know when you're ready.
I want to give the guy kudos because he's done something good. He's done something that, I'll be honest, that I wouldn't have done because it was far too cold. I mean, the guy's crazy to do this, right? This is not something that is expected, and it wasn't part of any challenges or out like that. He's done it on his own back. But nonetheless, he's done it anyway, and I want to give him kudos for it because it is good. What he's done is actually good. Right, we should be on there, Nath.
Okie doke. Just give me a sec. I'll screen share you. Got a picture of St. B's head up, yeah?
Yeah, that's it. So Al's gone at dusk and he's climbed up this like 300-foot hill, and it takes about 25 minutes, maybe 30 minutes to get up here because it's high. It's very narrow, windy. It's dangerous, right? You can't see where you're putting your feet. You don't know whether you're putting your feet on solid ground or not. And the track's really worn. It's like a really thin letterbox. So Al's climbed up here at night time with all of his kit, and he's gone up there. And to be honest, the guy's he's gone there for his own curiosity. But what he's doing, he's got his P900 set up, and he's using his other camera to record what he's seeing. And he shows that the Machel Lighthouse can be seen clearly, but look at the light. The key thing's the light. It's not that he's getting the elevation; it's that he's getting the light, the ambient light in the background. So you see it in a sec. It should be around here somewhere, and it's 3 flashes. So when you see the 3 flashes, you know that you're looking at the lighthouse. Come on. While we're waiting for it, it's obviously not going to happen, but it happens every 30 seconds. It's a 30-second cycle. So there you go. There's 1. There's 2. And then there should be a 3rd one. There's 3. So that is Machel Lighthouse. Now he sees it from here. But then what he does, he speeds it up a couple of times to show what it looks like. But now he's back on the step where Miles Davis was. So the step, for the benefit of those that might not be up to speed, is... I'll bring it up and show you. Clear that. Up here somewhere. There we go. No, a bit higher than that. I was elsewhere. Hang on. Where the hell am I looking here? There we go. I was elsewhere on Sunday, which is another topic. But so Al's up here on the head here, and then he comes back down to Miles's step. And now, obviously, Miles's step, Miles claims he's 40 feet above what actual water is actually 30 feet. But in any event, this is where he's actually stood. Now, you can see Machel Lighthouse from here. Now, the problem with that is, I'm going to do this one last time just to show you, because it's that far behind the curvature of the Earth that there needs to be an explanation. And I said to Al, how would you interpret it if you saw it from there? And he didn't really have an answer. He'd need time to think up an explanation for it, because 31.4 miles from there. So if we do the curve calcs on it quickly. So actually, we're not going to use this one anymore. We're going to use curvature calculator. We're going to use the Gizzy one instead, because that one doesn't deal with refraction, because that Metabunk one, it's got way too much refraction. It should be like 1 or 2% max, and it's got like 16% of refraction, and that's not acceptable for a negligible amount of refraction. So we're not doing that one anymore. We're going to go with 31, and we're going to go with the eye height of, we'll give it miles is 40 feet. It's 30, but we'll go with 40. And then you can see that the target that we're looking for, which is the beam of the actual lighthouse.
Scroll down a bit further.
It's 360 feet below the curvature of the Earth. Now, the lighthouse is only 210 feet tall above the rocks. So 360 feet means it is a physical geometric impossibility to see the light from the lighthouse. Cannot be seen.
Don't agree.
Well,
if you look into a Fresnel zone and how much that light dissipates and then comes back to a point, you know, it has to be diverging before it converges. So there is a zone that could easily be argued about. I mean, my argument with this particular nonsense, this light from the lighthouse, is that when you've got a picture of the lighthouse itself, the light is superfluous to requirements. And I don't know how many views Al or Miles have had with their videos of flashing lights from lighthouses, but I'm assuming they haven't set the world alight.
Sure, but my view on it is that it's behind the curve of the Earth, and a negligible amount of refraction is not going to bring it back. Now,
We've already
there is
got
an
that
argument
pegged.
for it.
That's my point. You've got that absolutely, unequivocally pegged with your observation that you did from the highest observation point. They can't bring it back. It's gone behind the curve. It's not there. It's not brought back with refraction. We're into non-standard refraction. So we're already... Hi, Nunya. How you doing?
Good morning, lads.
Good morning. Try not to swear today.
Yes, I'm on my best behaviour today, lads.
Excellent. Good to have you.
Thanks.
Ah, you were the Northern Irish guy from the day before yesterday,
yes? That's me.
Oh, I remember. Well, the thing is, though, Nathan, I mean, me and Nathan don't really agree on this one. It's not a big deal, ultimately. We've already got the evidence that is the lighthouse is still behind the curve of the Earth, including the non-negligible refraction on the Metabunk calculator. Still behind that, so we're into non-standard refraction to pull it back, which means that we're looking at a mirage, or we're looking at a hologram, or whatever word you want to describe it. We're not looking at something real. We're looking at something that's not real, and it's some kind of optical illusion, like a magician. That's if you accept the heliocentric model, which is that we live on a ball Earth. Personally, me and Nathan don't buy that, but we have that in the bag. That one's there, and it's not going to go away. But this is an interesting one because it's done at night time, and the problem with it is you can't see the coastline, you can't see the shoreline, and that's a problem. But we may have a solution for that. But that's another topic. But it sits at 210 feet, so it's got like 150 feet's worth of refraction to bend itself around the curve of the Earth. Now, because of the Fresnel lens, what it does is it diverges the lens, and then it converges once it gets past its focal plane. But essentially, light travels in straight lines, and even with the refraction, it's not going to account for 160 feet's worth of curvature. But me and Nathan we've had the discussion already, and fundamentally, we don't necessarily agree. But on the other hand, it's worth pointing out because Al's done the observation, and I asked him how would he explain this, and basically, you have to go into nonsense bendy like bullshit. Sorry, again, because that's the only explanation for it. It cannot be seen. It's behind a geometric curve of the Earth. It's the same for the arguments of the lighthouse. It's just you need more refraction to bring it back. So Al's done it. So what I'm going to show now is when he gets back to his step, he sees nothing but a black screen. Now, what Al's showing here is that this is what the camera will see. The sensor on the camera will see a black screen. Now, when me and Nath went up there on that weekend, Nath could see it with his naked eye. Spurs, naked eye. Everybody could see it with the naked eye, but the camera will not pick it up because it's got a tiny sensor and it doesn't know what you're looking at when you see a black screen and you're looking for the faintest of flickers in the depths of the picture. It can't work it out, and it's because of the camera. It's not because of the curvature of the Earth. So this is causation, right? And this is how you prove causation. I'm asserting that he did not get this because of the camera. Now, his assertion is that it's the curve of the Earth. Well, I'm like, well, if I show you that you can get this with a different camera, then it shows that it's not the curvature of the Earth that's stopping you. And he was like, well, that's a fair enough point. So the bottom line is, Al did not get Mackle Lighthouse from this point. And what he does is he shows that he's in this point, because this is something that Miles doesn't do. He spins round, shows where he is at the time that he does the recording. And he shows, I mean, look at the features, triangle, and then there's like a wall that's lit up in white, that lights in the car park. But Miles doesn't do this, which is why we have to have fights with him to try and get the information out of him. Al does. So Al couldn't get it, okay? So let's get rid of that for the moment, and then we'll bring up this file. And I'll flick this one on. Oops. So So this is the beginning. This is the same black screen that Al's got, but the only difference is this is on a D500, which is like a £2,000 camera body, and it's on a lens. It's a Nikon lens. It's a genuine Nikon lens, and the lens itself is 1,500 quid. So this is like 3.5 grand's worth of kit, and this is the difference between the two. Now, the people talking in the background are literally doing this live. Now, I walk in from the background because I'd gone in to get a spirit level to try and spirit level the camera to the horizon to basically try and get the camera in point. You couldn't even see the camera. You couldn't even line the camera up because you couldn't see where the lens was pointing. It was that dark. But I just come back into the picture and Spurs and the girls talking, and you can hear the whole conversation. It's not a particularly long video, but you can see the evidence for yourself.
Got black screen, no audio.
Yeah, I can't hear anything.
Yeah, I can't either. Maybe you haven't shared sounds on your Skype page.
Oh, hang on. Let me. I didn't realise I hadn't shared sounds. Hang on.
I would just share. Just start sharing. Don't bother starting the video again.
Hey lads, I would like to debate a different topic if possible at some point, because what I've noticed is the last 3 days. Is this still to do with this picture from the Isle of Man?
No, this is to do with the lighthouse
It's to do
flashing.
It's to do with Alki.
No, my bad. All right. Well, I would.
Okay.
Right. So, yeah, I would like to go on. I would like to talk about something else at some point, but no, do what you're doing there.
It's only going to be another 2 minutes.
No, crack on.
So basically, what she's showing is that we're getting the flashing light again.
Great, so I can actually zoom in even more. Right, I was only like halfway then, you know. Zoom in more. Right, okay.
And then speed it up a bit. And then she spins it round. There's Rumpus. And there's the same place that Al was at. There's Sean Hufford. But essentially what the point is that we could see it from the lower elevation, and it's miles behind the curve of the Earth. And it's the lowest elevation that we've seen it. It could probably go even lower. I mean, didn't fancy going onto the beach in the middle of the night, but it could be done. That'll be the next task. See how far into the beach we can actually see the light, because it's supposed to be behind the curve of the Earth. But anyway, shout out.
I can't argue with that, lads. I can't argue. You know, I mean, I don't know the maths. I don't know nothing. So I mean, you know, I have nothing to say against that. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna talk about something I know nothing about.
We were just giving a shout out to Al K because he went and done the extra mile, and it was worth giving him credit because I wouldn't do that. It was too cold, and he deserves acknowledgement because he's put time and effort into that, and he's got some great results. So, shout out to Big Al. But anyway, so let's change the topic then. What do you want to talk about?
Right, yeah. So a couple of things, right. So tell me this, you know, magnetism. What way does magnetism work?
What was your question?
Right, well, obviously I'm a baller, right? So obviously I believe that the Earth's a ball and that the magnetic field is generated due to, you know, iron in the Earth and all that carry on. But you know, what would your guys' model of magnetism be? You know, how would you describe magnetism if the Earth isn't, you know, if the Earth is flat?
Well, it's the cousin of electricity. It's the cousin of electricity. It's probably the cause of the tides. Salt water reacts to electricity a lot better than fresh water does. Good Times for All did a video yesterday showing that he could manipulate water with his bare fingers if the water had a charge. It's probably worth showing clips of that one, to be honest, but essentially you can manipulate water with electricity if it's salt water. So it's probably got something to do with the tides.
Grand. What I'm saying is though, where does magnetism, like, where do you, in your model, where does magnetism come from? How does magnetism generated? Because obviously I believe that it's to do with, the shape of the Earth and carry on the iron in the core of the Earth and stuff.
All right. So you think that magnetism comes from the iron in the core of the Earth?
Yeah, well, magnetism, as far as I'm aware, is to do with the iron in the core of the Earth and the Earth's rotation and stuff, generating a magnetic field.
Sure,
And of course, obviously, which another point I would say is, if you can witness the aurora borealis, what's that as well? Do you know what I mean?
I have no idea what the aurora borealis is. I know what you're referring to, but I have no explanation for that. But the
northern
core...
lights are usually solar flares, and the northern lights are basically just a product of solar flares hitting off the magnetic field of the Earth, and that's what causes the aurora borealis. It seems to be a neon
discharge of some kind between the noble gases. I don't know that for certain. I don't know how it's explained on the heliocentric model. I don't know how it's explained on the flat Earth model. But it appears to be a gas discharge like you see inside a tube light.
I know everyone says that all the time, Yeah. Because I don't like talking around.
Because Colin has one in the watch and we need to the computer can't get in there because it's in there and the door's locked.
Yeah, there's 6 here.
I think.
Hey, do you want to mute him?
I don't know. I can't quite believe he's joined a live show and then is with his mic completely open having a conversation with his wife. It just amazes me. I've got to be honest.
Mute him and let him come back.
Okay. There you go.
Yeah. Greg T says, I hope he doesn't go for a toilet break. It reminds me of that scene out of, what was it now? It was...
like Anchorman or something where he's got the mic wired up to him still.
Yeah, Leslie Nielsen in,
Yes.
was it Airplane?
Naked Gun.
Naked Gun, yeah, when he goes to the toilet in the courtroom. Anyway, right, the noble gases. Somebody said, Typo Brahe says, what do you know about noble gases and why do you believe what you know? I know nothing about noble gases. I know nothing about the explanation on either model. I've seen explanations for both models. It's not something I can really speak confidently about. He asked the question, I gave my answer, and I also disclaimed it because I don't really understand either model's explanation for the Northern Lights, but I don't think anybody does, to be honest.
Well, yeah, but the Northern Lights are... So if I were to say to you the Northern Lights are a product of solar flares hitting off the magnetic field of the Earth, what would you say to that?
There is an alternative explanation to do with the noble gases that I don't believe you could distinguish between the two.
What noble gases are you talking about, though?
I'll have to get you a citation for a reference there, but Nath, can you remember what that video was about? How we worded it?
I can't, but we started with the iron core, and you explained the general accepted rhetoric in regards to why we have a magnetic field surrounding the ball Earth, and that explanation is because, according to heliocentric theorists, a planet called Theia smashed into the Earth, and its debris coalesced into the Moon. But when it smashed into Earth at a glancing angle, it deposited its iron core onto Earth, therefore giving Earth an oversized iron core that hasn't cooled. So therefore we still have this self-perpetuating dynamo inside the Earth. But there's absolutely no evidence of that whatsoever. They might tell you that's the case. The same
I
applies
don't
to
believe
Theia.
that a planet forever. Yeah, I don't believe that myself. But
that's
the story. Anyone can say
that's why we've got. But that's the story. That's why we have an oversized iron core, according to your model.
Yeah. Well, no, not exactly my model. I don't believe that. I just believe that over billions of years, whatever, generator accumulated and stuff. I don't think that it necessarily has to be that this planet crashed into our planet in that way.
All right. So you
I'm
asked,
not
originally
right.
your question was about magnetism, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And I started to ask you, well, where do you think the magnetism comes from? And you said the iron core. Do you
Yeah,
want to
yeah.
elaborate a little bit on that? Where does the magnetism come from?
Where did the magnetism come from? Since the I just explained it, didn't I? Magnetic core in the center of the Earth.
Yeah,
And
but
fucking
so by virtue of the fact of the magnetic core, the iron core, that gives us the magnetism. Is that right?
yeah, well, by rotating electric charges. Yeah, I mean the Earth spins, rotating. You know,
Oh, right. Okay. So it's the
electric
rotation of
charge,
the Earth
magnetism.
that creates a like a tide underneath, a current underneath, and what a movement of iron core that creates the magnetism. Is that what you're
Yeah, well,
saying?
the actual spin of the Earth. The Earth spins, the core and the Earth is spinning with the Earth. Do you know what I mean?
All right. So
Generating
what?
with electrically
So what?
charged, which generates magnetism. You know what I mean?
Okay, so what you're saying, you're right. So what you're saying is, as the molten rocks underneath, although not the lava, but they call it the mantle, and at the inner core and the outer core, because of the rotation of the Earth, that creates an inertia within that liquid environment, which creates the magnetism.
I'm not. Listen, I'm not going to say that because I'm not 100% sure. But all I'm saying is that from what I understand is that magnetism is generated from the iron core within the Earth, electrically charged, spinning. Do you know what I mean? Does that not
Right.
make this? You know, if you run an electric charge through a wire, wrap around and round and round and round a nail, it's going to create a magnetic field. It just does.
Sure.
That's how, you know what I mean? It's
Okay.
undisputable.
Do you know what the Curie temperature of iron is? And I'm not asking you for a number, but do you know what the Curie temperature is?
The what temperature? Sorry.
Curie is spelled Curie.
No, I actually don't, mate. No, why?
The Curie temperature is it's the point in which substances are no longer able to conduct electricity. Iron has got a Curie temperature of about 700 degrees, and if you have iron beyond its Curie temperature, it no longer conducts electricity. Were you aware of that?
I wasn't. No. How do you? I mean, like, is that a definite fact? Yeah.
Sure. If you just are you sat in front of your computer or are you on your phone?
No, mate. I'm on my earphones here. I'm not. I'm in work.
So I'll have to do it for you, but I think Nath just stepped off for a drink.
No,
So what I'll have to do is,
I'm here.
all right. So if I
No, I doubt you're gonna lie to me. You know, I don't doubt you're lying to me. You know, I don't think you're trying to pull one over on me. So I don't, accept what you're saying.
No, I'm not. I'm just going to show you some science that hopefully
Go ahead.
you might be able to appreciate at least where I'm coming from, even if you disagree.
1 sec.
Let me know, Nath.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're on.
All right. So if you just go to, can you see my screen, dude?
Yeah, 1 second there, wee second. 1 second. Yeah.
So if you type in the Curie temperature of iron into Google, it gives you a value. It gives you a temperature in which the Curie temperature is met. And then you can click what is meant by the Curie temperature. And it says in physics and material science, the Curie temperature is the temperature at which certain metals lose their permanent magnetic properties to be replaced by induced magnetism. The Curie temperature is named after Pierre Curie, who showed that magnetism was lost at a critical temperature. Now, in this case, the temperature of iron, the Curie temperature of iron is 1,000 degrees. So at that point, it loses its ability to have permanent magnetic properties. It can have temporary, it can have magnetic properties, but it relies on some form of induction. In other words, an external source to provide it with magnetism, but it loses its permanent magnetic state. So unless it's replaced with an induced magnetism form of some kind, it doesn't have any magnetism anymore once you get to this temperature. You with me so far?
Yeah. No, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So if I open up another one and say temperature of the core of the Earth, and we see the temperature is around about 6,000 degrees in the core. So it's safe to say that 1,000 Kelvin and 6,000 Celsius, it's kind of gone like 6 times higher. So the Curie temperature has been met. Would you agree?
Yeah, yeah, no, I can see exactly what you're talking about there. Yep. Obviously, the Earth
So,
temperature, which that makes perfect sense. But
so
it's a bit mad. You can't sort of just take you can't just type one thing into Google and just accept it, but then not accept something else off Google. You know what I'm saying?
sure,
This is where the whole breakdown happens. Like, you can't just accept one thing but not accept something else. That makes
sure.
sense, no?
Well, now I've got on screen, I don't know if you can see this, but this is something called a
Yeah,
phase diagram of iron. And what it
yeah.
shows you is that at different temperatures and at different pressures, it'll tell you what state iron sits in. Now, basically, what you can do is like 1 bar is our atmosphere. And you can see that when basically iron is a solid, we're solid. So iron is a solid at all of these points down here until it gets to this point at liquid. So it's got a melting point of around about 1 bar, 1600, 1700 degrees Celsius. That's where it becomes liquid. But at 1700 Celsius, the Curie temperature has been met. So if the core of the Earth is liquid or solid or molten iron or whatever it is, the Curie temperature has been met long since. No longer exists. It's not capable of having a magnetic source unless it's got induced magnetism. Now, if it has got an induced magnetic feed to it to make it magnetized, it has to be coming from somewhere. Something else is creating the magnetism. Now, I'm not saying that there is something that's creating it, but I'm saying that it can't be self-magnetic. It's not allowed to, because the Curie temperature has been met. So unless there's something that's feeding the magnetism of the core, it can't be magnetic because the Curie temperature has been met. Now, that's the physics.
No, that's fair enough. That's fair enough. No, fair play. You laid that out in black and white. What I would say is, how do you know?
I'm not saying that.
No, you're 100% right, mate. You're just right. Fair play to you. What I'm saying is, there could very well be something, inducing the magnetism. It could very well be that we're just not aware of.
I agree. I think there is something that's feeding the magnetism, because I think the magnetism is created inside. But I don't think that it's self-perpetuating its own self. I mean, some people argue that it's the inertia of the Earth, which is the spin of the Earth, that creates like a movement inside, and that the iron self-perpetuates its own electricity, and therefore the electricity creates the charge, which is magnetism, which then becomes our magnetic pole, our magnetism. But when put to the challenge to produce evidence that that iron will self-perpetuate its own current, they bring out sodium, and there is evidence that shows that sodium will self-perpetuate. I can show you that on screen now. Just bear with me. Molten sodium. Let's try sodium spinning. Okay, so this is an experiment that showed when you spin molten sodium, which has got a low melting point, you can self-perpetuate a charge within sodium. And sodium and iron are similar metals and have similar characteristics, apparently. But if you throw sodium in water, it will combust, whereas iron doesn't combust, it rusts. So on the one hand, it can be described as being similar, but on the other hand, it's completely different, because iron doesn't blow up when you chuck it in water. So this is an example of sodium spinning and self-perpetuating its own electricity and creating its own magnetic charge. I agree. However, we're talking about iron, and there is no evidence that shows that iron can do it. And when put to the point, Paul Voigt, a self-proclaimed physicist, otherwise known as a high school teacher, has got no evidence to show that molten iron will self-perpetuate its own charge, therefore creating its own magnetism. So from that point, and I've been asking him every time he came in, he's not been in for a while, but every time he comes in, Paul Voigt's been asked to explain, where's the evidence for iron self-perpetuating itself the way that sodium does? And he hasn't got it. There's a guy in chat called Paper Explanator, and I'm pretty certain that he should be able to get this evidence if it existed, but so far, no evidence. So the issue becomes for me, if magnetism is created by the inertia of the Earth spinning, evidence please, because so far a self-proclaimed physicist and no doubt Paper Explanator could produce the evidence if required, but until at this point, no evidence has been produced.
So we're coming up on approximately 1 hour left on this live stream. I hope you're enjoying the debate thus far. If you're new to the channel, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. If you would like to support this channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they're live, and a link in the info box once the video has rendered. But most importantly, if you would like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the shape of the Earth. There are a couple of rules, however. Number one, please don't swear. If you do, you will be ejected. And if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show, as sharing the show increases the live audience, of course, and this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show. And one last time, if you are new to the channel or you have not done so already, be sure to subscribe and hit the bell notification icon to keep up to date with the Flat Earth debate. And we have got a new guest in, so I'll just say a quick hello. How are you doing, new guest? Can you hear us? Netty Voyager?
I don't know if I'm on.
You are. You are on. Did you have something you wanted to say? You've gone immediately on mute.
Is this working?
Yeah, it's working.
Ah!
Yeah, it's working. It's all good.
All right. Yeah. No, I was just getting on, just to really talk about this stuff, It's like, it's interesting. The thing is, you can't see a curve no matter how hard you try and measure it. It's just going to be a flat fucking line anywhere.
No, please don't swear.
Oh, yeah. You can't see the curve. Even if you try looking for it, you're just going to see a line.
Yeah, I agree.
You can't look over the curve, not unless you go high. If you look flat on the floor, you're like eye level. You're never going to see a curve. You have to go up in the air to see the curve, to look over it.
Yeah, there's no curve. Completely agree.
I'm not saying there isn't a curve. I'm just saying you can't see it.
Oh, I am. I'm saying there isn't one.
Right. And which way does the curve go? Does it go over or does it go up? We're in a dish.
You're talking two different things. So what you're saying is there's no left to right curve, i.e. the horizon doesn't curve in your pictures. And also, there's no obstruction. There's no curve blocking your view. Now, they used to just dance over the fact that there's no left to right curvature and immediately go to the obstruction formerly known as the curve. The obstruction formerly known as curvature, i.e. this little band of refraction.
It's a funny thing to call it, the obstruction formerly known as curvature. Well, it's curved, but it depends because you can get convecture. Yeah, which is convex, and you can get concaved. There's two different curves. The fact that it's difficult because your perspective changes every time you look at it. It's like it depends on what angle you're looking at it as well, and what height you're looking at it from. It's a very difficult thing to measure, and we haven't got any instruments on this planet big enough to do that, unfortunately. All right, we might have in space if we've ever been in space, but that's a different subject. The thing is, it's like for water to be contained on a planet, it has to be in some sort of a dish. It can't be on a flat surface. It'd run off. It'd fall off. Do you get me? It has to be contained in some sort of container. So the oceans are dented, obviously. They go down obviously they do. From land level, they go down because, obviously we're above sea level, So sea level is level. It's relevant to what it does as well, It's like you're not measuring anything really because you're not under the water, are you? You're just measuring the top of it. If you took all the water away and went topographically, all right, yeah, it'd look flat, but it's not flat. It looks flat because that's all you see is flat because your eyes and your mind can't put that perspective together. So what you're seeing is just a flat line. Yeah, but really, in essence, yes, it is curved, but you'll never see that. Never in your lifetime. Nobody will. Nobody on this planet will see it.
Yeah, but you should.
Ever, because our eyes are too small and the world's too big.
Well, we've got cameras with super zoom, and you should see it absolutely if you're on a sphere 24,900 miles in circumference. You're saying, sorry, I've just let you talk. Now you're talking over the top of me, it seems. So,
sorry,
yes,
all right. So I do apologise.
You're still doing it. You're still talking over the top of me. Why are you still talking? I've waited for you to finish. then I've addressed your point, and now you're talking over me. That's very, very rude. So yes, you should absolutely unequivocally see a curve. It should be there. You should be able to measure it, but it isn't. You're saying that's fine, we're too small, it's our eyes being too small. No, that's complete rubbish. We should see a curve, we just don't. We should be able to measure a curve, but we can't. There is no curve to measure because it is flat.
Yeah, it's flat because it's flat on its perspective that it is, but it's not flat altogether. You don't get this. You see, what you're seeing, yeah, is you're seeing flat. Yeah, it's because it's flat. Yeah, it's flat. Yeah, well, what was stood on, but the whole thing altogether is round.
I think I'll just state my position. I think this guy's trolling for the fun of it. I don't think he genuinely believes this nonsense, and he's derailed a really good conversation about the Curie temperature and molten cores. So, is his value? Unless you've got really something credible to say, mate, I think that you're just wasting our time.
No, I think you're wasting your own time. Have you seen the core? Have you got any evidence of a core in a planet?
No, neither have you.
No, neither have I. So why are you speculating over something that doesn't exist?
We're not, you complete imbecile. That's not our speculation, you retard. That's your speculation for your idiot globe that you think you live on.
Why do you think we live on a flat surface?
An absence of curve.
Where is your proof of this flat surface? This complete flat surface. I'm not just on about a little bit of flat surface. I'm about the complete flat
is my proof of a flat surface.
It's what we made. We made it flat.
We dug it
soundly
out, is my proof of a flat
and we
plane.
built flat buildings on it.
Soundly is my proof of a flat plane.
If you walk on a curved building, it hurts your legs.
Are you actually a human or are you a bot?
Do you mean I'm a human or a bot?
You weren't responding to me when I was talking to you, that was all.
I didn't hear you. Sorry, I do apologise again.
Soundly is my proof that we live on a flat plane.
You can't do it. You can't prove it.
Soundly proves it every time he puts his camera up.
Sorry, he just said we can't prove it. So for the last God knows how many shows, we have shown a demonstration of a single observation from Isle of Man. This observation has been repeated, so you can go out and repeat this. However, while I get continually muted in the Hangout, that observation, when you model it on a sphere, does not demonstrate the curvature that this guy in the Hangout thinks is perfectly acceptable to not be seen. Correct, we can't see it. Correct, we can't perceive it. Correct, we can't measure it, because it's not there. Not because it is there. That is the biggest load of old nonsense I've ever heard. When we model the observation, we see that we can model it flat. We can draw straight lines to all the things that we see in the observation when modelled on a flat plane. We can take simple angles and do trig calculations like surveyors do when we model it on a flat plane. When we model it on a sphere, the first thing you notice that's pretty obvious is there's no curve. Even though there should be one, it should be calculable, you should be able to measure it, it just simply is not there. So there's no curve to be seen, there's no curve to be measured, but coincidentally, if you believe you're on a sphere, you can measure it on a flat plane and take simple trig and simple straight lines to measure everything. There is no curve. The fact that we don't see one isn't something to just be washed or brushed under the carpet by you as though that's not an issue. It is an issue. There should be a curve if you live on a sphere.
Right, yeah. There should be a curve if you live on a sphere, yeah? All right, yeah, I get all your calculations and all that to do with all that, yeah. But what I'm saying is you'll never see the curve, no, but it's there.
Well, that's just a complete nonsense that you're asserting from complete incredulity. I've just told you that we've taken an observation from a position at St. Bees and the photograph demonstrates zero curvature. It should be there, we should be able to measure it, but it isn't. And you're saying, well, the fact that it isn't means it's curved. Are you a complete idiot?
No, because the light is indirectly refracting at an angle.
Right.
So
you're into refraction.
The air anyway, wouldn't it?
You're into refraction. So I'll say it one more time.
Dispersion, actually. It's not refraction.
On our model, no refraction is necessary to be modelled in order to take straight lines and do simple trig.
It's just not to necessary, but it's there.
Sorry,
It's a physical entity that exists, but it's not it's not really important, just like my curve isn't important, but your physical entities are, that you invent, that you think that are there, but they aren't. How do you come up with...
let's just address that. So there is a lighthouse in the image, and it should be behind curvature according to your bullshit globe model. It isn't behind curvature. It's not obstructed. The refraction isn't bringing it back. It's nonsense. The refraction fails. So you have to go to something else called non-standard refraction in order to make this observation work, where you should see a curve but do not see a curve. So you continually reasserting that, no, we don't see a curve, but that's perfectly normal, man. No, that's not perfectly normal. That's why we've had the debate for about 80 shows.
Well, yeah, I know that, but I mean, what's non-standard refraction?
I don't know. This is your nonsense for your model that you think you live on. Why are you asking me when it's not my nonsense? I'll explain it again for the guy who's hard of hearing. In our model, the one that we use to represent the Earth, we don't use refraction. It isn't necessary. That band-aid theory that you guys slap onto your theory when it fails to represent the actual observation, i.e. the lighthouse isn't obscured by the curve you think it's cool to not see. When we model it, there is no need to factor in refraction. You guys can't represent the actual observation using your model alone. So then you move to band-aid theory number 1, which you are now asking me to detail to you. You should understand your own bullshit. Don't ask me to detail your shit to you. It's your shit. Understand it. Don't ask me to explain it. I don't need it for my model.
You're swearing your head off at me like a docker's wife. What's going on?
I'll talk to you how I choose if you're a retard and you don't understand simple facts that I don't need refraction to account for it on a flat plane. You need it and you're asking me to detail it to you.
Well, I don't understand things that people try and make up.
Yeah, I don't understand things that people make up like refraction where it's not necessary either. Look, but I'm not asking you to detail it to me, am I?
Know that? Yeah, refraction is there. It does exist.
Prove it. Prove it.
You use two crystals and you bend them at an angle and it creates...
Are you a complete idiot? I ask you to prove refraction, the light bending through the air, and your response to me is crystals.
All the time, it's called a diffractor.
Crystals don't prove refraction.
Yeah, they bend at two different angles and they diffract the light. And
so that proves that crystals can bend light. That proves crystals, dickhead.
Yeah, but it's to bend light. We bend the light with crystals.
Did you not hear the word refraction and understand that that's part of your bullshit model? Did you not understand that?
No, but it's there. It exists.
So prove it. My question was prove that it's there, and you're now talking about crystals like some twat.
Yeah, they prove that it's there because they bend the light back into the angle that they're supposed to be.
So how does that prove that refraction is applied to this lighthouse? How does that prove that refraction is happening in the image of the lighthouse? How does that prove that it's happening in the image of the lighthouse?
It depends on the angle, the light, the day, the time of the day. It's all sorts of factors that all come together, you know, that creates the electromagnetic field that it's creating through the refraction of the light. It's like a, what do you call it, a projection, like a mirage. It bounces an image upside down off the inside curve of the atmosphere and then bounces it back down as a light image into the refracted light. So you see it as like a wavy mirage, but it's upside down, do you get me? Because you can't see it the right way up because your eyes don't see that sort of thing. You know, when you're looking through a telescope, you see everything upside down. You've got to use a mirror to correct that, to turn it the right way up again. So, you know, when people say what's above, you know, so above, so below, it means that we're living on an upside down world. Are we? No. Our eyes always see upside down. So everything that you think you're seeing is upside down.
That is quite possibly the single most stupid string of words I have ever heard in my entire life. I think me and the entire audience are more dumb for having listened to that.
I'm glad you think that, but, you know, it's nice to hear a different theory and a different dumb idea, isn't it, than going on about a flaming lighthouse for 6, 7, 8 months. Come on.
Oh, so you've been paying attention to the lighthouse that isn't there then? You understand implicitly, I assume, that the lighthouse physically isn't there on your model. You can't see it, you don't have a direct line of sight about it. You seem to have joined to obfuscate the question away from this, but then you find it very tricky to actually answer any of the questions that are put to you in regards to this observation. Those questions being, why is it that on our model we can take straight lines and simple angles and do trig calculations to work out exactly where it is, and it is where it is? What do you know? Whereas in your model, it fails to account for the observation at the first hurdle. It's not supposed to be there, and it is. Therefore, your model immediately fails. You don't seem to want to address that. You just seem to say that we've been talking about it too long. Like a prosecutor who's saying, yes, we've got fingerprints on the gun, and we've got CCTV footage. And the defence says, the guy just keeps saying the same thing over and over again. Don't listen to him, jury. He just keeps repeating himself. Repeating that they've got CCTV footage of the murder and fingerprints on the weapon. And this prosecutor says to the jury, you better listen to me and my witness that says, although she doesn't really know his name properly, she says he was at a different location. Ignore the CCTV footage. He just keeps saying it over and over again. He's been saying it for 8 months that we've got CCTV footage of this happening. So I suggest you all ignore that footage. Well, you're telling me to ignore the footage of the Isle of Man because we've been talking about it.
You've been going on for this so long now that you're getting so far into it. There's so many calculations and so deep into this.
No, wrong. I'll say it one more time for the hard of hearing or stupid. There are no complicated equations to be done on this observation. You only have to apply complicated equations if you want to account for the fact that we don't see a curve that we should see. Unlike idiots like yourself who feel that it's perfectly normal and perfectly acceptable for people to actually see no curvature. People think that that's acceptable. Well, it isn't. You should see curvature. You don't see curvature. And ultimately speaking, if you can't see curvature, there isn't any. However, you need to necessitate complicated maths to account for that curvature not being there. We don't have to have any complicated maths. I'll say it for a third or fourth time. When you model this observation on a flat plane, you take simple straight lines, angles, and do trig calculations. It's basic high school stuff to work out the height and distance of anything in this observation. That's not complicated mathematics. The complicated mathematics come from the globe side, the people who think they live on a sphere and need to account for the fact that there is no curve at all visible in this image, and things that should be obstructed and behind Earth curve are not. So it's you who requires complex mathematics, not me. You don't understand them. You don't even understand that you're supposed to see a curve. You are quite literally totally and utterly out of your depth here.
So what happened to the pi I squared calculation?
Sorry, what the hell are you babbling about now?
Circumferences and to find diameters of things and all that. You know, what happened to all that? Why do we have trigonometry and that goes round curves? If everything was flaming flat in the world, yeah, we'd have flat maths, wouldn't we?
We do have flat maps. You find me a map that's on a curve. Paper is flat. Maps are flat. The way that they create the maps is they do planar surveying. They use geodesy only to find their initial reference point. From there on in, they do something called leveling their transit. They look out and make sure that the thing that they are looking through is perfectly and totally horizontal in reference to the horizon. It is not looking at any curvature. It is not going up and down as it spins on its axis. It is perfectly level and flat, like the land that is being surveyed. So if you want to tell me why haven't we got maps that are flat, we have got maps that are flat. How many maps have you used?
Thousands. The thing is, yeah.
How many were curved?
You see, it's like this.
Sorry, and my question was, how many of those maps were curved?
They have to show it that way because...
Sorry, I'll ask the question again for the hard of hearing or stupid. How many of the maps you've just asserted would have flat maps if the world was flat?
Well,
we do have maps
that are flat.
Well, yeah, maps are flat. So how many of the maps that you've used, hundreds of, were curved?
Well, that'd be a globe then, wouldn't it? One of them things that's sitting in a bloody school classroom.
I'll ask it a fourth time. How many of the maps that you've used? Have you ever used a map? Have you ever used a globe to navigate? Have you ever done that?
It simulates our planet.
How many times have you used a globe to navigate the planet?
What is that ball? Probably the last time I used that was in school.
Right, so so it's not a map then. So how many maps have you used that have got a curve on them?
None, because they're all flat.
Right, so they're all flat,
Right,
unlike what you
monitor.
just asserted, you stupid man. You've just asserted if the world was flat, then we'd have flat maps. We do have flat maps, you complete retard.
They aren't round, are they?
Yeah, they're flat.
You don't roll them around the bloody tube, do you? And carry. Well, you do actually. You do roll them around. So
is that how you use them when they're rolled? Is that really? That is quite possibly the most pathetic thing I've ever heard. So you're saying because when you store maps, you have to roll them up? Is that really what you're saying? So you're saying that curve is when you roll the map up?
Well, yeah, obviously.
You are an idiot.
Yep, I am. You're right there. I must be an idiot for listening to you for the last bloody 6 months.
No, what we explain is that we take straight lines like the maps are created. Flat.
It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter.
Irrelevant.
It doesn't matter how many calculations you take or you try and prove whatever you're trying to prove, you'll never do it. I can tell you now, you will never, ever do it.
Sorry, I'll just say it again. So we have modelled the Isle of Man observation on a flat plane, and we can take straight line measurements to anything in the observation and do simple trig to calculate the distance and elevation of anything. It has been proven. It has been demonstrated. The only failure is for the globe. The only people who failed to model this are you guys, not us.
It's only relative to the perspective of the objects and the things that we build on this planet.
Yeah, we build them using planar surveying. We build them on flat planes.
Yeah, we've got to. We don't want to be walking around on a curve, do we? It out our legs.
No, we don't, because we don't have
so
any
we
curvature.
build everything flat, obviously.
Thanks for making our points for us. That's wonderful.
Yeah, no, it'd be a bit. Well, we can build curved things, but yeah, they'd look.
We can, we just don't,
and we don't. So no, we build everything flat. We have to.
Correct.
It's ergonomic to our bodies.
Because it's
flat.
Better
on our bodies, so we don't stress out.
Like the maps, that you said that we don't use.
The world,
if the world was flat, we'd have flat maps, right?
Right. The world to me is that big, yeah. It's that huge, that colossal, yeah.
No, it's not that colossal. The Earth is 24,900 miles in circumference, and that dictates what can and can't be seen on it. It has nothing to do with what you like to think about how big it is. That is irrelevant. The mathematics for the sphere are set in stone.
Like, to the Earth, you're a speck. You aren't even a full stop. You're like 0.0000001 millionth of a thousandth of a millimeter high on the perspective of this planet.
Nonsense. So you don't know anything. So the sphere is 24,900 miles in circumference, and that dictates what can be seen at what distance. How big I am on that sphere is completely irrelevant. The maths dictates what can and can't be seen, and as we have demonstrated consistently, the globe model fails completely to represent this observation.
Fails on the instrumentation that you're using. Yeah, it does, because the instrumentation will never be able to measure it.
Yeah, we have measured it.
Maybe
I'll say it again, because you're clearly thick or deaf. We have taken observations, we have measured them, and we have modelled them. That's what has happened. So these things have absolutely been measured. They have absolutely been calculated, and they have absolutely been used to demonstrate that the Earth is flat. What they have also been used to demonstrate is unequivocally there is no curvature. This is easy to demonstrate by using our model and simply comparing it, like for like, with your model, which fails.
I'm just trying to prove it at the moment, whether the Earth's round or flat. They're doing thousands and thousands of experiments on it. I don't know what the outcome of it's been yet. I've not really followed that bit, but you know, I stand on the fence on this because
you don't sound like you stand on the fence. You sound like a complete globe cuck.
I can't prove either way whether it's flat.
Right,
I know it's round because I've been told my whole life.
We can, and you think we're wasting our time by doing 80 shows on it. We can prove it and have proved it and have demonstrated that the Isle of Man observation can be measured with simple straight lines, simple trig, and simple calculations. We can demonstrate it. You can't, because you're doing nothing but coming on here and trolling us. You are a keyboard warrior and a troll. That's all you are. We are out there in the field demonstrating that the world is obviously and observably flat. You don't have to like that. You
can't go around making statements like that.
I will make that statement again. The Earth is obviously and observably flat. The reason for making this statement is because we have taken an observation from St. Bees and modelled it in two ways. The first way is on a sphere. The sphere you think you live on, a sphere 24,900 miles in circumference. That sphere fails to account for the observation. It fails totally and utterly. We have also made the same observation and modelled it on a flat plane where it succeeds, and you can take simple straight line measurements and simple trigonometry calculations to work out the altitude of the observer, of the target, and that's it. It's simple. What you see is what you get in the flat Earth. What you see is not what you get in the globe Earth. You need slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena to account for this observation because your model fails. Ours doesn't.
What's this slightly non-refracted, non-standard fucking hyena? Sorry, French
Don't
again.
swear.
Non-standard hyena. What's all that? Is that a new animal you've just invented or something?
That's your nonsense. I'm going to take the piss out of your nonsense for it being nonsense. We don't need that nonsense in
It's
our
not
model.
nonsense.
You need it, so I'm going to laugh
How
at it.
can you say that's nonsense?
I'll
When
do it
refracted-
again. So what I'm going to say is I'll say it one more time for the deaf and stupid guy in the Hangout. Right? So slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena is my insult to you and the farcical nonsense that you think must apply to a simple observation, because it is necessitated by the curve that we cannot see. So the only reason we have slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena is because there are people less stupid than yourself that realise we should observe a curvature, but we don't. So people like you think it's fine not to see it. Other people have accounted for it with non-standard refraction because you should see it, but we don't. So all of your nonsense saying, oh, it doesn't matter, we're too big to see the curve. Well, that's why we have slightly looming non-standard refraction hyena to come to the rescue of people more intelligent than you, my friend. That's what it's there
I work with
for.
refracted light all the time. I'm an astrophotographer. So, yeah, I understand refracted light and how it works.
You're an
and
astrophotographer.
How it comes down.
Yeah, it's probably a
certain
dustman.
angles,
Probably
you
a
know,
dustman.
like
Probably
certain
doesn't own a
light.
telescope.
You said that you're an astrophotographer. I'm going to call you on that. Can we see some evidence that you've taken pictures yourself of anything astrophotography related, please?
Say that again.
Prove you're an astrophotographer.
Show us some evidence that you've taken yourself of anything that's astrophotography related, please.
I don't do that. Just a picture.
Anything you like. Anything you've taken with your telescope and a camera attached to it.
That's going to take a while to dig out.
A
Oh,
while.
come on.
You're an astrophotographer. I've got a video that I could bring up that I've recorded from YouTube, which is the thing I claim to do. I could do that in 10 seconds. You're telling me it would take a while to dig out your astrophotography, something you claim to be, that you claim to do.
What
Why would it
telescope
take
have
a
you got?
while? Why would it take a
what's
while?
that, man?
What telescope have you
Not
got?
on my computer. I'm going there now. I'm having a look. But, you know.
What telescope have you got?
Um,
Not my bad.
I think we've just established that you're not an astrophotographer.
I think we've just established that you're a lying sack of shit.
Yeah. Nate, can I be honest, mate? He's not adding anything here. Is the Irish guy still here?
Nah, he dropped a while ago. I think he got told off by his wife or whoever's at work with him. So now he's not around anymore, unfortunately. But he was much better because he was at least willing to concede certain points.
Yeah. I hope he goes back and looks at the Curie temperature in relation to iron. Oh, and I had somebody message me and say that sodium as the comparison metal's not even got a Curie temperature, which I didn't realise at the time. But I wish I'd have known that when I had the discussion and the debate with the guy I had it with. But Sujiri, your model cannot explain tides, seasons, currents. Really? Have you not been keeping up to date with the flat Earth debate? Actually, thinking about it, explaining doesn't mean proving. And if you think about the heliocentric explanation for the tides, i.e. the moon, then you can't prove a causal link between the moon and the tides because we see the moon once a day. And then for the other half of the day, when we don't see it, it's around the other side of the ball. But we have 2 tides a day. So how is it that we have 2 tides a day, but we only have 1 moon? We only see it for like 12 hours. We should only have the 1 tide. There's no explanation to show In fact, actually, come on, Siri Jury, explain how the moon causes 2 tides a day.
The
Oh, is that
moon
guy gone now?
The moon causes 2 tides a day. How does the moon cause the tides?
What I'm asking.
Well, I don't think it does. I think the tides just come and go as the water expands and contracts on the surface of the planet.
Do you know, that's probably the most intelligent thing I've heard you say.
Is it? That's nice.
Paper explanator, why don't you come in and correct us on how I don't know anything about the tides? Maybe you could prove causation with the tides, you know, show the causal effect that the moon causes the tides. Because I'm calling bullshit. Come and show us. Suri Juri. Actually, explanation by proof is one of the strongest logos. What? Explanation by proof is one of the strongest logos. We have 2 tides with 4 periods as the moon's tidal forces. Gravity, right? That makes no sense to me whatsoever, Suri. Explanation by proof is one of the strongest logos. I have no idea what that means.
I don't know, but getting everybody to see that same proof all at the same time is a very difficult thing. You might only convince the people.
I'd like to see the explanation
that are in
paper.
your group of this, but the rest
because
of the
then
world
I'd like you to show the causal link to show causation.
The word is
tides are caused by
causality.
salt water and the tides. Case closed. Yeah, because I want to know why paper thinks that the tides are caused by the moon when the moon should affect fresh water, and it clearly doesn't. Just because you have no idea what it means doesn't mean it's not correct, Riley. Well, just because you can explain something doesn't mean that you prove it, paper. Paper, what evidence have you got that fresh water is affected by the moon? Come on, let's see that.
I don't get what you're on about. Fresh water is affected by the moon. I don't get that. All water's just water. Whether it's fresh or salty, I don't know. Water's just water to me, you know.
No, paper, I'm not going to look it up. I want you to tell me. I want you to show it because it is a debate channel. If you think I've said something that's incorrect, join the panel and tell us about it. I'd love to.
You can get 3 different types of water. You can get salt water, fresh water, and brackish water.
What kind of telescope
brackish
have you got?
Where salt and fresh mix together.
What kind of telescope have you got?
But at the end of the day, I mean, still water usually. I mean, fresh water is usually in still bodies. It's usually moving out of a still body into a stream, and the stream obviously moves the fresh water around. But you know, 99% of the water on the planet is all really salt, isn't it?
What kind of telescope have you got then?
I don't get it. You know, it's like how does the moon affect the tides? It's like I don't think the moon has anything to do with the tides, to tell you the truth. I think the tides.
What telescope have you got then?
Do.
So, what telescope do you have?
It's a Breza 900.
Oh wow! How long did it take you to Google that?
So wouldn't you think that an astrophotographer would know that off the tip of his tongue?
That picture on my the square in the corner. That's my telescope.
Wow! You've got a picture of a telescope, and you didn't know what it was called off the top of your head. Wow!
No, because I haven't really got a name. The actual. The OTA, the optical tube assembly, is called Breza. It's from Breza, but the rest of it's hybrid. The back end of it, the stand, everything is all hybrid. I bought it all individually and built it myself. Because the ones that you get online are shit. Sorry, excuse my French again, are crap for the money that you pay. So it's cheaper.
So not only do you claim to be an astrophotographer that didn't know what the name of his telescope was, you now claim that you build your own telescopes?
Well, yeah, I built my own telescope, yeah.
So what lenses have you put in your telescope then?
Do you mean what sort of lenses have I put
I love this. You get a tricky question and he doesn't know the answer.
I don't know what you mean, but I don't know what you mean by what lenses have I put into it.
Well, the lenses are all manufactured by different companies, right? You might have a lens from company A over a company B lens, and you may go for A because A's got better whatevers. So what lens did you buy for your homemade telescope? Was it a particular brand, or was it just a generic one that had no name for it?
The actual brand of the telescope itself, the main OTA tube in the middle is Breza.
What about
But
the
you
lens?
don't know what lens you put in it.
Well, you can put different lenses in the.
Yeah, which one did you put in?
They're not actual. The lenses in the end are like they're permanent. They stay in the end.
And which one did you put in?
Well, a 90mm one, obviously, to fit the 90mm tube.
Well, what manufacturer made it?
Breza.
Oh,
So
really?
basically, you bought a Frezza telescope and you
So why did you
assembled it.
tell us about the tube?
No, the OTA is the optical tube assembly. Yeah, that's just the tube. That's just got. Well, it could have many lenses down it, actually.
So it could have. So when you told us
about
about the tube, you were telling us about an assembly that didn't actually reference any lenses. Then we went on to ask you about lenses, and now you're claiming that it's by the manufacturer. Well, that would just be a telescope, wouldn't it?
Not necessarily, no.
Right, okay.
All right, in that case, tell me about the tripod. What brand of tripod did you get? Quick.
The eyepiece is that what you're trying to say? The eyepiece lens or the actual optical end? The bit that you look through? I don't know. What are you on about?
Tell me what. Tell me about your tripod mount.
It's an Exos 5.
And how much did you buy it for?
Just the stand, about 450 quid.
Anyway, this is getting boring.
The tube altogether, well, roughly altogether, I mean, I've spent $3,000 on it. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 cases of equipment here. 7 aluminium cases of telescope equipment, ranging from cameras, CCDs, filter wheels, all sorts of stuff. Loads of
Any
equipment.
evidence? Can you take us a picture? Show us what you've got. Let's actually see it.
Yeah, I can. How do I actually share pictures on this thing?
Have you got a
Could you
webcam?
drop them in the room. Drag and drop.
Have you got a webcam?
Yeah, I have actually.
Just point it at it. Just turn the webcam to your telescope. Turn on the camera. Then we'll see it. Easy.
Yeah, just a second.
I hope he has got one.
I have to debag that cable up there. So I'm just moving a cable. This is going to be difficult.
Suri Jury, did I run away? No. What am I running from? Nathan Oakley, tell me how your model accounts for the Eötvös effect or the Coriolis effect. Well, the Coriolis effect is not, it's a fictitious force. It doesn't actually exist. It's something that you believe. I don't know what
There's no need to account for it because the observation didn't appear to be spinning. It appeared to be stationary, so we just didn't account for it, even if it is real.
And I don't know what evidence that you've got to accept that the Coriolis force is really a thing, but I'd like to see the evidence that you accept for the Coriolis force being anything other than fictitious. With regard to the I don't even know how you pronounce that, but the Eötvös effect, quick Google search tells me it's the perceived change in gravitational force caused by a change in centrifugal acceleration resulting from eastbound or westbound velocity. Well, anything that's perceived isn't really proven. It's not factually true, accurate. It's not a real thing. So if you can prove, again, that if you can prove that the Eötvös effect is a real thing, how would you do that? Usually, most people would flick to Wikipedia. Quick look on Wikipedia says it's the change in perceived gravitational force. Show us the evidence that proves that it's there. Looking down at the maths, I don't think there's any way you would ever be able to prove that it's really there. It becomes gobbledygook.
You listening? Case 1.
Wow. Take it all back. Stand corrected.
That's just.
Oh, is he showing it?
It is.
That's just the finder scope.
Hang
That's
on,
not
let
the
me find it.
telescope.
Let me find
That's
it.
just the bit that finds the stars. Yeah.
Hang on.
There's one. Yeah.
So he's actually got this on screen right now.
There's two.
Yeah, he's showing us his kit. As requested.
I've got it. Do you know what?
There's the second one.
I apologise. I take it all back.
There's three.
Cool. Very cool.
That is cool. I stand corrected, sir. I apologise. You do seem to have more kit than I gave you credit for. Where's the actual scope?
It's in the living room.
He did show it at the beginning.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. Very good. Thank you for justifying our inquisition.
That's case 4. I've got another 3 cases as well to show you with more.
I believe you at this point. You can show us if you want, but
No, I want to see.
I definitely believe that you do take photos of the stars.
Yeah, and I can't get to them because they're all online, and I am online at the moment on that sort of online sort of thing, if you get what I mean. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's, you know, refracted light does actually alter things. Yeah, it alters our perception of what we see. It alters the perception and depth of field in what we see.
I agree.
It creates unfocused.
So tell us about refracted light. Does light only refract down?
Weird. It's all strange. But yeah,
tell us about refracted light. Does light only ever bend down or refract down?
Yeah, you see, refracted light is difficult in astrophotography for myself and for a lot of other astrophotographers out there because of the makeup of it. It's an electromagnetic field, basically. That's all it is.
But does refracted light bend down, or does it also bend up?
No, it only bends down. It can't bend up.
Really? I can show you some evidence where it does bend up.
Light comes from the sun, and it shines through the atmosphere at an angle towards us as we look at it, or whatever perspective we look at it through. But it's like it depends on the conditions, because you know it's all to do with the atmosphere and what how much actual water vapor is in the atmosphere. Really, it's all to do with vapor and water, yeah, and how much is actually held up there. You know, when it looks like a clear day, it's not really a clear day. There is actually like vapor there. It's just that it's that high up you can't see it. You know, it's a weird thing. Yeah, light obviously bends through something called the electromagnetic spectrum, and you put light through one minuscule little piece of water vapor, yeah, and it bends it. Obviously, it does. Bends the light. It doesn't bend it uniformly. It bends it in all different directions because the magnetic interference from the planet and from the sun both act on each other and create a magnetic wave variance that's scattered all the way across the planet surface. And it's not uniform. Light doesn't really exist. Light is just a magnetic wave of an interference from the sun through our atmosphere. Yeah, all right, yeah, light exists in space, but it's, I don't know, it's very, very difficult to, I mean, what you're talking about, I understand. I see where you're coming from, but you're never going to explain it. Not on what you're talking, not the way you're talking about it. You need to physically show it. You need to physically prove it with an instrument that will physically show it and prove it. And your cameras aren't going to do that.
Right. I'm just going to add this at this point, because you've said it a couple of times, then I'm going to let Anthony do his demo on screen. So you're saying we need to prove the atmospheric conditions that are conducive for refraction. I'll say it again, because I've said it till I'm blue in the face. We don't need refraction in our model. It is totally and utterly superfluous to requirements. You can still take straight lines, simple trig, and measure distances and altitudes without accounting for refraction in our model. So when you tell us to go and account for this stuff, and I tell you that it's not necessary in our model, that frustrates me. You need to tell us how refraction works, because it's your nonsense.
I just told you how it works. It's an interference from the electromagnetic light spectrum. They bounce off each other and create some diffuse anomaly of what you're seeing. That's all it is.
Can you see my screen?
Yes.
It's crazy. It really is.
Yeah,
You can't, I don't know. It's like going up to somebody and say that's never seen a flower before. No, not a flower.
Nate, what's his name?
It's like going up to somebody and trying to explain a car engine to somebody that nobody's ever seen a car engine before. It's like that's what you're trying to do in this conversation.
Right, stop talking. Stop talking a minute, please.
A physical
Can you hear
thing
me?
into perspective that you can't.
Stop talking for a sec. Can you hear me?
Man.
Hello?
Hello, yeah?
You can hear me, yeah?
Yeah, you just told me to stop talking, so I stopped talking, and now you're saying hello. It's like, okay.
Press
Go on.
press the button at the bottom of the Hangout so that you can see my screen. You'll see some lights on screen. Let me know when you've done it.
Yeah, I've got you up.
Right, you can see what I've got on screen now. Right, these are 7 lights that are placed at set distances from each other, and they disappear into the distance over about 7 or 8 miles. What's happening to the lights? Can you explain what's happening to the lights relative to each other, please?
Nothing's happening to the lights. They're all staying exactly where they are. I don't know what you mean. What's happening to the lights? They're getting smaller as they go away. I know that.
I've put a line on to help you see what's happening to the lights. The line doesn't move at any point. The line is stationary, doesn't change its position throughout the clip. Can you now tell me what's happening to the lights relative to the line?
The bending.
Right. Would you say that this is refraction?
Yes, over a curve.
Right.
Over a flat surface, actually, not a curve. You're on a flat surface. So yeah, you're gonna get a bending light.
Right. So is it accurate to say that the light always bends down?
Yes, but it'll bend down because it's.
Keep watching. Would you say that all these lights are bending down now? Say yes.
No, I'm not going to say yes because the lights are all bending down.
But would you now say the lights are bending
in
up?
one direction? Up.
They're all bending up and down relative to the line that's put in between them all, just to give you a guide to see what is basically the same point.
Yeah, but
so
that is negligible. While the word is actually being popped up there, yeah.
So
in between, negligible.
You agree that the light bends up and down, not just down? Yes.
Yeah, but you're moving the camera up and down, aren't you?
No. Camera's not moving. It's on a tripod. It's not moving.
It's the wind's blowing it.
Okay, it might be moving a negligible amount.
Well, that's a negligible amount to me. 1 millimeter is like 7 light years in space. You don't think these lights what you're actually doing there is you're moving something 1 millimeter, yeah?
Right, there's other stuff in the photo, though, so there's other stuff that you can reference to see if the camera's physically moving or not, and it isn't.
Hey, you aware? That you wouldn't even see that. You wouldn't be able to see it.
You can see that the stuff in the background isn't physically
I
waving.
said 1 AU aware, 1 astronomical unit, which is a light year. You wouldn't be able to see that.
Pardon, what did you just say? 1 AU is what?
An astronomical unit, a light year. You wouldn't be able to see that.
That's not what 1 AU is.
What, yes it is. What's an AU? As an astronomical distance. I thought it was a light year.
No, it isn't a light year. 1 AU is not a light year.
Miles, isn't it?
1 AU is the distance from the Earth to the Sun on your model. I thought an astrophysicist would know, an astrophotographer would know that, right?
Not 1, it's about 2.5 actually. Maybe 3. Yeah, 3.
So it's not 1 light year then, no?
No, it's 3.
3 what?
All the gear and no idea.
It's 3 what?
I'd say light years away.
No, 1 AU is 1 distance from Earth to the Sun on your model.
No, I always thought 1 light year was a distance of about 1,447 miles or something.
That's right, but 1 AU is 1 distance from 93 million miles. 1 is 1 AU.
Yeah. Is that all we have? 1 AU from here to the moon?
Did I say moon? Sun.
Sun. All right. Sorry, that's where you confused me.
Sorry, if I said moon, I apologise. I meant sun.
Yeah.
One AU is around about 93 million miles. It's known as the distance from the Earth to the sun. It's not known as 1 light year.
Right. Yeah. Well, I got confused that way you said the moon.
Did I? Did I say moon? Oh, I
I
apologise.
heard
Sorry, I
sun.
didn't mean to confuse
Maybe you did say moon as well, but I only heard sun.
Sorry, if I said moon, I apologise. I misspoke. I meant
Because
to
we're
say
looking at a
one.
dark picture and you thought that was the moon in the background.
Anyway, point being, is the light
Or is that
bending
the
up or
sun? I
down
don't
above the
know.
line? Above the
Can't
line, is
tell.
it bending up and down, or is it only bending down?
It's bending up and down because the camera's
Right.
moving up and down, obviously.
But you said earlier that no. You said earlier that light only bends down, but this is clear evidence that light bends up as well as down. Do you not agree?
It's reflecting off water,
I'm not on about the reflections.
so it's going to bend it. It's got another medium in the way, so you can't prove nothing with that.
I'm not on about the reflections. Forget the reflections. Look at the lights, the primary source of the light.
He's already conceded they bend up and down. He's just saying that the camera moves. And I'm
You know
saying,
something?
well,
The camera's actually moving in a circle or an arc. It's moving from left to right.
right, it's a fixed camera that's been
How are you
put in
doing that?
place to
Why
do a
those-
time lapse. So it's a soundly piece of footage, and it's of a time lapse of his experiment. And the camera was set up and left to take these images. You can see from the stuff that's not the lights in the picture that it's not. Constantly getting muted. So yeah, you can see from the images themselves that it's not the camera that's moving. You know, that's blatantly obvious.
Buildings in the background coming in and out of perspective on that last shot that you just gave me.
All right, let's change the position. Here's another straight line that's been put on the picture, and relative to the land that it's just sat below the straight line. With regards to refraction and the land that you see on screen, can you tell us what's happening to the light that's hitting the eye or the lens of the camera? Is the light bending up and down, or is it only bending down?
Well, it's moving up and down because it's it's refracting off the surface of the water. Water has that, ability to do that, and it doesn't bounce it uniformly in one direction. It bounces it everywhere. So what you're seeing is
the point that I'm making is that light bends up and down.
Undulating.
What?
It's undulating. It's creating waves that are moving forward, yeah, as well as backwards. So the surface of the water is moving, which is pushing the light up and down. That's all you're seeing. It's like a mirage effect in a way.
You're right, but this is the obstruction
all you're seeing is a mirage.
Formerly described as curvature.
Yeah, but it's not curvature, it's flat.
Yeah, we know.
I agree.
Yeah, we know.
Well, obviously the water's flat. Body of waters don't stand on curves, do they? They'd fall
Certainly
off.
not. There's no evidence to support that assertion, so no, it can be dismissed.
Yeah. It's just a mirage.
Great.
Same as that mountain in the background. That's wobbling up and down. That's the
Sure.
mirage that the refraction of the light's creating.
But so long as we agree that light bends up and down, not just down. Initially, you said that light bent down.
No, it only bends down from up. But when you're observing it from a flat, from where you are, obviously from ground level, yeah, it will move up and down. Especially reflecting off water, yeah, it's going to move up and down. But you do that across land at an horizon, it's not going to move up and down. It's going to stay still.
Sui Dewey says that there's no evidence that I've provided that supports flat Earth. Why don't you join a panel and we could discuss the evidence, Sue?
Yeah, I haven't said much for a few minutes.
It's
I'll
round
happily
and flat
point out
at the
our
same
evidence to
time.
you. Feel free to click
Get
the link
that.
in the info box below this video. Make sure you mute your watch page before you join.
Yeah, it's round and flat at the same time. Just because our brains perceive it to be flat doesn't mean to say that it is flat.
So why does it measure flat?
It measures round as well. You can use the same mathematics, really. Pi I squared, like I said.
No, you can't. So I've just explained this about half a dozen times. If you model it, it works out with straight lines and simple trig, like people actually build stuff and measure stuff with. Whereas when you model it on a sphere, it fails to represent what is in the observation. What you see is not what you get if you live on a sphere.
Thing is, disc, round, yeah, it's sphere, disc, flat, yeah, it doesn't really matter. You stand that disc upright, you're going to get a circle. Still
Yeah,
going to be
this
around.
is somewhat interesting. Somebody repeats,
why is no... to calculate the curve of the circle.
Why has no flat Earth believer entered Wolfie's competition to win £2,000 worth of drone and P900 crickets? Not a single entry. The answer to your question from my perspective is that I didn't know there was such a competition, and that's why I've not entered. Now, I'm aware of one.
I said it can't be done.
Does anybody know what the competition is from Wolfie? If it's something to do with the equinox, I won't be bothering.
I do. You got to prove something to do with the equinox with a telescope to prove this refracted light or something is coming in some other direction or whatever. And the explanation of actually how he's put it down and what he said is that it can't be done. I've said it can't be done. My statement that I wrote on it is it can't be done. Doesn't matter. No matter how you try and look at it, you can't do it.
So you're familiar with the challenge from Wolfie, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to explain it to us? Because this is literally the first I've heard of it. So tell us.
Moving a right ascension arc, and they're fixed to the North Pole. Or obviously not just fixed to the North Pole, but you fix them to the North Pole. You center it to the North Star, Polaris. Obviously, in your southern hemisphere, then you're going to have to pick another couple of stars from somewhere else to triangulate too. But as long as you're within that plane of that right ascension arc, all the angle that moves is the RA. Yeah? Everything else, the heavens move anti-clockwise to us. The Earth moves clockwise to us. So all you're doing is you're making sure that that arc in the sky, that curve, stays within the boundaries of that right ascension. That's all you do. And what he's trying to explain on that, whatever it is that he was talking about, is the equinox and all that, is that it can't be done because the precession of the equinox is turn anti-clockwise to what we turn. And we all turn like as we do, and you know, all the stars in the sky and they all dance about and all that, you know, but you know, no, they're fixed. They can't be changed. Maybe in 60,000 fucking years, maybe Polaris will change and we'll pick another Polaris star.
I know you're not triggered, but just try not to swear.
But you know, no, it just can't be done.
Just put it in a simple sentence for us. What is the challenge that he's asking us to do?
Simple challenge is to prove the equinox of. Is it something? It was a long time since I last read it. To prove the equinox of the planet or the moon, I don't know, something like that, with a telescope, and it's like
right. So
he's trying to explain something backwards. You can't do it. He set a challenge that was impossible, basically.
Track the circling flat Earth sun with a single plane tracking telescope mount. Track the circling flat Earth sun with a single plane tracking telescope mount. Is that what the challenge is, Dell inquiry?
Yeah. Well, the single plane is right ascension, which is RA, which we go right, which obviously because we go clockwise, and the equinox and everything, and the whole planets and everything move backwards. They move anti-clockwise.
Right. So it is a straightforward response to Dell. Dell inquiry says it's to do with following the sun with a single plane tracking telescope mount. You can do this yourself with your own eyes. Go outside at midnight, and wherever, basically you need a midnight where the moon is out, because sometimes the moon is elsewhere. Like you don't always have the moon in the night sky, but when there is the moon in the night sky, go out at midnight and you will see that there is no lunar eclipse. Okay, at midnight, when the moon's in your night sky, it's supposed to be blocked by the Earth, which is 4 times bigger than it, and it's supposed to be that close to it that it cannot see any sunlight. It should be getting 0 sunlight whatsoever, and you can see that the light from the moon is lit up perfectly, and that should not be receiving any light from the sun. It'll be pointing on a flat plane to where the sun is projecting the light from. But in real world, at midnight, you'll see the moon in the night sky. The sun should be under your bum. Should be under your feet. That's where it should be. So you can see, you can prove that this nonsense about orbital mechanics and the plane of the sun and the trajectory of the sun, it isn't going round a ball. It's not rotating round our asses. It's going round on a plane, and you can see that at midnight with the moon. You don't need a telescope to do that.
You got to remember, Galileo got imprisoned for his entire life for trying to prove something like this, you know. And then
So
when they
paper
proved him
explanator
right,
says
he was dead.
paper
a bit later
explanator
then.
says what complete nonsense. Right.
Don't
Remember,
die trying to prove something.
remember that the distance from the Earth to the moon, relative to the distance to the moon or the Earth to the sun, the moon is 0.25 of 1% of the distance to the sun. Basically, it sits right on top of us relative to the sun. We are 4 times bigger than the moon. So when it's when it's midnight and the sun is the opposite side of the world to us, if you've got the moon in the night sky, it should receive no light because of the proximal relationship between the Earth and the moon. It would get no light. However, paper explanator thinks that that's nonsense. Well, go and get it on any model. Show the distances involved. Show the scale on any model. It sits in the Earth's shadow. It gets no light at all. Well, it's 5% ecliptic plane. Well, look how close to the Earth it actually is. It's 0.25 of 1%. It's right on top of us.
Once again, foolish enough to do my last link without any audio. So, first and foremost, a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of the live audience for tuning in and hopefully sharing this debate. If you've not done so already, be sure to like, comment, share and subscribe. Also, a massive thank you to the debating panel for making this debate possible. One last time, I've been Nathan Oakley and I will see you all in the next video.